We are back, and we are at the halfway point, basically, of the NFL season. We got Drew Stanton. I am AQ Shipley. We are at Little Miss BBQ in Phoenix, Arizona. This is one of my favorite spreads because it's just it's a lineman's dream. We got brisket, we got ribs, we got sausage, we got pulled pork, we got turkey. It's just no fucking sides at all. None. Zero.
None needed.
We just go all meat. Nice little meat platter. We got Scott Holmes from Little Miss BBQ in Phoenix, Arizona.
That's right.
I'm a barbecue connoisseur.
Yeah,
so
nice.
I'm excited for you to kind of talk about all this.
Yeah.
Let's talk. What do we got?
So we've got all sorts of stuff. So we do Central Texas style barbecue here.
Okay.
We've been around since 2014. Right here we've got our prime brisket. So we cook. We've got prime brisket. We've got pulled pork. We have our house sausage, our jalapeno cheddar sausage, our smoked turkey, and our pork ribs.
Salivate.
Yeah, really good. So
what do we got here?
Those are our enchiladas. So we use anything that we have left over the day before. So let's say we've got pork ribs, brisket, and pulled pork. It'll all go into the enchiladas.
Mix it out, slice it out.
Yep. And then we have a sauce made out of guajillo chilies and ancho chilies. Then we add a little queso fresco on there and some cheddar cheese.
Cool.
And that's about it. And they're absolutely unbelievable. Really good.
Talk a little bit about your story, because you gave us a little piece of it earlier. I love your story and kind of how this whole thing got started.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I went to culinary school in 95, 96.
Okay.
Graduated. Restaurants are crazy. You work nights, weekends, holidays. You're working all the time. And you're not making that much money. And I ended up getting out of the restaurant world. And I started dating my wife, Becky. Gosh, we started dating, oh my goodness, 15 years ago. This was 2005. Okay. And her parents lived just west of Austin. So the first time I went out there to meet them, they met us at the Austin airport. And my father-in-law, my father-in-law, he had a cooler of beer in the car.
For those that don't know, barbecue capital of the world, maybe, Austin?
Yeah, I'd say definitely
up there.
Definitely up there.
Okay.
But yeah, so he's got this cooler beer. I'm like, hey, what are we doing? He's like, man, we're gonna go to Salt Lake. I'm like, all right. I have no idea what it was, right? So we're driving. It's about 45 minutes out of Austin, and you go in, and there's a bunch of oak trees, and then there's it's like an old stone building, and it's awesome. It's BYOB. You go inside, there's a big pit, and there's a fire going underneath of it, and there's briskets and ribs and sausages hanging down. And I was hooked. Came home, bought a Big Green Egg. My wife and I started doing barbecue. We were cooking on that thing 5-6 days a week, and started with pulled pork. Then we started doing pork ribs. And one day I had a party with a bunch of people over, just a big pork rib party, and one of my friends brought another guy, Justin, and he's like, hey, I'm doing a barbecue contest in a couple weeks. You want to come help out? I was like, sure.
Let's do it.
So I go, and barbecue competitions are just camping with a purpose. And it was amazing to me. Everybody's up late at night, hanging out, getting to know each other, just having fun and cooking barbecue. So Becky and I started doing barbecue competitions. We did 15, 16 competitions a year. We were doing them here, California, Nevada. And at first we weren't that good. Then by the time we were done, we were one of the top teams in Arizona. Loved it, and I had a job at the time where they were fantastic and let me go off and do all these things. But at the same time, I was like, I kind of really want to do a restaurant. So ended up working on Central Texas style barbecue. And we worked on this probably for about 6 months just because it's so different than competition style. And a lot of our tenderness profiles are based off of competition style. So we're still trying to fit that same window for competitions. But much simpler. We don't put sauce on our meat. It's not super sweet or anything like that. Whereas competitions, it's all about sweet, a little bit of heat, and a whole lot of MSG. Whereas like here, it's like, hey, let's really make the meat shine.
Sure.
And just keep it as simple as we can.
I love it. So now, is there a big difference between what you're serving to the regular consumer in terms of, because I do know they do want a little bit more of a bite on the rib, like not as fall off the bone when it comes to competition. Am I right in thinking that?
Yes, absolutely. It's almost like we're going for something I always tell everybody when I train is like a meat pillow.
Okay.
Right? You want it to give under your, when you bite it, it's just kind of like a nice squishy
Yeah.
pillow, right?
Yeah.
You want it to just bite, and you want to be able to take a bite mark and not have the whole rib come off.
Sure.
Because if it's shredding off, it's overcooked rib, right? It's going to be mushy. or you don't want it too tight either.
Yep.
Because if it's too tight, you got that pull. I don't know. We're just going for that perfect little window, and it's like a little meat pillow.
I love it.
I love it. And then same with brisket too. You know, we're not looking for it to shred. We're not looking for it to fall apart. You're not looking for something tight.
Sure.
But you know, my dad. You guys have probably met him over at university, where you know he always
runs
equated,
that place.
He used to run that place. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in charge of everything, the parking and everything. I mean, anybody that's been to that location when you guys started out, it was mayhem.
Yeah, it was nuts. But he always equated the fatty brisket, and that's pretty much all we have today because you guys know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
He always equated that to almost like a ribeye cap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's fattier, super tender. Whereas you could have something like a New York strip, where although it's really, really good, it's got a little bit more of a bite to it.
Sure.
And that's kind of like our lean brisket.
I love it.
Right.
I know me in particular. I'm a connoisseur, like I said. So I got the green egg in the backyard.
Yeah.
I do a bunch of stuff. The one thing I never do, I never trim a brisket. I never.
No?
I do it afterwards a little bit, but I want the fat. I want to control how much fat. I don't know if that's the right way to do it. Maybe that's just because I'm a lineman at heart. 10 pounds, I like fat. Right?
Yeah, fat's amazing.
But I like the fatty portion, so I'm glad.
Yeah,
I'm glad
I did too. We always trim ours to about a quarter inch and eighth inch. Like you can kind of see on here. See how we're about
right there. Yep.
Eighth inch over there, quarter
Beautiful
inch over there.
smoke ring.
We're always trying to get where that fat's a little bit brown. See how it's tan right there?
Yeah.
That's kind of where it's nice and rendered. And then when it's nice and rendered, that just means it's not going to be chewy or anything like that, right?
Love it.
So you kind of want it where it just kind of comes apart right, when you eat it, and it's so good.
All right, so this is another bit of my research that I think I picked up on. Pepper is huge in the Austin, Texas.
Pepper's
world.
massive.
Massive, right?
Massive. I mean,
so talk a little bit about that, because I know like the Kansas City, even the Carolinas, they're big on like the big rubs, right?
Yeah.
Heavy paprika, a lot of sweetness, a lot of this stuff. And you guys are pretty much salt, pepper, just like Austin, Texas, typically. A little more?
Yeah, a little bit more.
Okay, a little more. All right.
We almost make almost like a seasoning salt.
Okay.
Right? So we have this fine seasoning mix. I always love, from my competition days, we would always layer 3 different rubs onto our meat. So we would always have a fine rub because I always use ingredients in that fine rub that can penetrate, right?
Look at that.
And then all of my seasonings that don't penetrate, I put on second or third, right? So with ours, our base rub is really simple. It's kind of like,
you don't gotta give all the
It's fine sea salt, cayenne, paprika, garlic, a little celery salt.
Sure.
You know, we've got a couple other fun things in there. And then, you know, in the bark, we're using really coarse black pepper.
Love it.
And we also use
unbelievable here.
yeah, and we also use kosher salt on that.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what we're doing for our seasoning. And then we just have a slight variation of that for our ribs. Pulled pork is exactly the same as brisket, and our turkey just has an addition of a little bit of thyme, sage, and rosemary.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, we can't thank you enough. This is
absolutely.
awesome. Food is. This is going to be probably our most excited episode to talk about barbecue.
You don't even need size when you have all this, right?
Yeah, this is unbelievable. This is our dream.
I have no doubt you guys are going to finish this.
Are any of these like your baby or your go-to of like, if you're going to have one thing that you got to take with you, can you make that choice, or is that too hard?
No, if it's somebody new, I'm always going to recommend the brisket. Whether it's a fatty or lean, I think they're both great.
Yeah.
I'm so torn right now, right? Like after that,
it's
really
like picking which
kind
one's
of
your
goes
favorite kid.
because sausage. When I was working that last job for that last construction job, where as a PM, I would take Becky and I would make sausages every Wednesday night, and then we would smoke them on Thursday, and then I would take them around to all of our clients on Friday. So I would drop off 5 sausages to these guys, and they love me, right? But you know, like, hey, try this one, try this one, try this one. So we really worked really hard on our sausages. Like for instance, you know, our jalapeno cheddar sausage, it's amazing. But the process is we grind it, season it, stuff it one day. We roast all the jalapenos by hand and dice them, and then we use a sharp cheddar cheese, and we dice a 50-pound block into 1/4-inch cubes, which takes a long time, right?
A lot of love in there.
Our butchers they don't really enjoy that, but it makes a great product. And then we let it sit for a day, and then we smoke it at 170 degrees. And then when it's 150, we pull it out, we put it in an ice bath, and it shocks it and helps develop the color. And then after that, we pull
Look
it
at
out.
that face right now.
Right?
I'm so excited to listen
Yeah.
to this.
And then we put it on a drying rack, right? So that the sausage dries again. And then the morning of, we cook sausages twice a day here. So then what we'll do is we'll take it back out, and then we'll put it on our smoker, and we'll cook it. We'll reheat it so it gets double smoked, right? And then it gives it like a nice crunchy bark, like crisp bark to it and everything like that. And God, like those, I love those. We didn't do those over at university because I didn't have enough time.
Yeah. Well,
Whereas here we have more people and we have the time.
well, lastly, before you go, because you talked about competition, right? Bringing all the components together. You got 3 sauces.
Yes.
Keep it pretty simple here.
Super simple.
Describe those sauces for us real fast.
Yeah. Our house sauce is more of a sweeter sauce. It's thinner. I like something that gives a nice sheen. Like you have a Kansas City sauce where it's really ketchupy and super thick. Man, we put so much love and we try to make it where nobody wants to use the sauce. So if you use it, it's super thin and it just doesn't. It's not super thick and I don't know. I love it. So sweet, got a little bit of heat to it. And then we have our our spicy. Our spicy is the addition of jalapeno, more cayenne. Really simple. We don't take it super hot because I want you to be able to taste it. There's nothing worse than putting something on your food where
Kills
the
your
heat overpowers everything else. Then we have our mustard sauce. Mustard sauce is amazing. It's just yellow mustard, brown sugar. Gosh, we put just a teeny tiny bit of ginger in there, and it's delicious.
Love it.
Yeah.
We're
very
looking
good.
forward to it, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, guys. You guys enjoy yourselves.
Can't wait.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thanks a lot for
Cheers.
having us.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yep, absolutely.
Come to Little Miss BBQ.
Do it.
What do you think, man? Halfway season. What are you seeing?
First of all, cheers.
Cheers, buddy.
How was your weekend? How about that? I mean, let's talk about your weekend. A big weekend going back home.
Big weekend. Honorary captain. Big white out. Walk out. See a white at Penn State. That place is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Did you see it?
Not easy to get to.
No, I had 7 hours of flights and 4 hours of driving.
Well worth it, though, right?
Could have went to London. Watch Russell Wilson doing high knees.
Yeah, stretched on the plane. You would have
Exactly.
been sleeping.
No, I wouldn't have been sleeping. I would have been stretching. What do you think, man? Halfway. Is this where you expected teams to be? Are we seeing what we thought?
I mean, it's always new and exciting in the NFL, right? You never know what you're going to get. Some of these teams that we thought would be middle of the pack or in a rebuilding type of mode or trying to at least take that next step, they busted through and they've gone up multiple notches because of what they're capable of. Right?
Yep.
You look at the New York teams in particular, and they've been tremendous. And some of these teams that are starting to feel, okay, we're in this hunt, they're trying to stay in the hunt with the injuries they've had with the other guys, for being out or different things like that. We're starting to see trades take place, which is really neat because the teams that feel like they have a shot, you look at the New York Jets in particular, to go get a running back of that caliber to say, okay, we lose Breece Hall, who was playing at a really high level for a rookie, was a dynamic game changer in the run and pass game, and then you go get a move like that and you add a marquee running back, it's huge.
That locker room has to feel so good about where they're at right now because what that trade just said is we're here.
Yeah.
We're ready. We're ready to make this move because the last, 10 years maybe since Mark Sanchez took them to an AFC championship, right? Since that point, they've been sellers at this point. Yeah. They've been sellers at the deadline. And here we are. Trade deadline pops in, and the New York Jets make a big move. That was mind-blowing to me, but that told me everything I needed to know. That told me they like their team. They like their chances. They like where they're at. And they also see a little weakness with the New England Patriots not being the head of that division right now, right?
Yeah, well, another team that made a huge move, Christian McCaffrey. We talked about it on last week's show, the potential of him moving on, going somewhere else. I don't know if anybody thought San Francisco was going to be in the play, but they swooped in there. They got him. He had a nice contribution last week, right? Did some really good things. Will be more acclimated. Didn't make an immediate impact because they went out and got trounced by Kansas City. But that Kansas City football team is going to be in the thick of it for the duration of this season.
And I think the San Fran 49ers will be in the thick of it when it's all said and done as well. I really do. I like that team a lot.
Interesting stat, though, right? And I told you about it earlier in the week. When you look at Kyle Shanahan's offense, he's 1-29 when they are down by 3 points or more in the fourth quarter.
a crazy stat. I mean, when you told me that, I was blown away. I had to like look it up just to make sure you weren't a dipshit.
Yeah.
Just to make sure.
I'm my own analytics department.
Yeah, exactly. But you were 100% right, and that proves that offense is gold when you have the lead. When you don't, there's a lot of holes, right?
Yeah.
And so they need to get back to that defense that was getting D'Amico Ryans in the conversation for head coach talk 4 weeks ago. Yeah. That defense needs to come back, allow them to play to their strength, and that's run the ball, let Jimmy make 12, 15 throws a game, and just feed Christian McCaffrey, Jeff Wilson, and that stable of running backs moving forward.
Yeah, you got to win the turnover ratio. You got to be smart. You got to be good at situational football. You got to control what's going on throughout the course of the game and play really good defense. They've done that. They just so happen to go up against a very good offense.
By the time this episode comes out, we're right around the trade deadline. Do you foresee any other big moves? KJ Hamler, Jerry Jeudy, big Penn State guy. Jerry Jeudy, any
Robert Quinn, pass rushers, playmakers, difference makers, right? If you're making moves at this time, if you're giving up draft picks, if you're doing something, you're trying to push a little bit closer to that playoffs. You're trying to push a little bit closer to a title so you can get into the playoffs. So, yeah, I mean, I would think about guys that are disgruntled, and we're seeing a new era of player that's kind of voicing their opinion, right?
Yeah.
You look at Elijah Morris. He said, I want out of there. We talked about him last week of what happened of, his Twitter posts and all of these things. He wants his way out now. Now he doesn't care that they're winning and they're still doing well. Wide receivers want to be in there. They want to be getting targets. They want to be making plays. So some of these wide receivers that aren't Jerry Jeudy, right? Or a guy that's got some character issues, some guy that has all of the talent in the world, maybe he needs to change the scenery like Cam Akers. Pass rushers that we talked about, Bradley Chubb, Robert Quinn. What you're going to do. But again, you see the Bears go out and win a football game. All of a sudden, there's still life in that division. Nobody's really run away with any division at all. There's some teams that have differentiated themselves as making, okay, this NFC East is going to be more difficult than we thought. And there's others that are all just kind of stagnant right there waiting for somebody to take control.
I agree. It's kind of wild to see because you're seeing at the midpoint 3-4, 4-3. That is like that's where everybody's at. That's where everybody's at. You have a few outliers that are, obviously the undefeated Eagles, which, I mean,
but the Giants are keeping pace,
and they're keeping pace, right? So that division's awesome. And then they got Taylor Heineke and Sam Ellinger with a matchup of monster quarterbacks this week. But
nobody would have predicted that, right? That's why this is such a intriguing league.
Jim Irsay picked that game as Tarek Glenn's Ring of Honor game. The homecoming game, get all the old boys back to come because he thought it was going to be Carson Wentz versus Matt Ryan and feeling good about the Colts and both teams in disarray with two different quarterbacks. Another interesting topic is obviously they've made a move away from the old protocol. They're trying to be more safe. It's probably more optics than anything to try and protect their ass.
You don't like it.
I hate everything about it. I hate everything about it. As we know, I'm a meathead. And I fully think there's plenty of safety in this game and built into it already. The protocols were fine. The way they handled Tua was fine. Things happen in a dangerous sport.
But when did we say that these doctors weren't able to actually evaluate what's going on and we're just saying, hey, at any point in time, we're just going to try and put Band-Aids on this and say, you're done, right?
Hey, some spotter from fucking the nosebleed sitting on top of the stadium with his binoculars I think I saw a little bit of wobble. Pull him out.
Yeah. Oh, you tripped on a blade of grass.
Yeah.
So 201, anybody, right?
Yeah.
Sky could have seen what was going on there.
100%.
And been able to say, that guy is not supposed to be in a football game.
100%.
Somebody like Amon-Ra St. Brown, who isn't even in the concussion protocol, gets pulled out because of the concerns of a concussion. It wasn't even the case, right? That's a huge detriment to that team. They can't even go out and play their game. The game plan changes immensely because of that. These protocols that are supposedly put in place to protect players are doing just the opposite. It's protecting the league right now from what it looks like. That's all it is.
It's all optics, and I hate everything about it. I also hate the referee situation. I hate it. There's no clear, concise thing with any calls anymore. Any gray area, they're usually making the wrong call anymore, where it didn't used to be that way because they don't know what way to go. And, we saw the whole Mike Evans thing. We'll hit on it real short. But
was he getting an autograph?
I mean, no, I don't. I believe what was said, right? Like, you remember the whole referee
know those
reports.
guys,
You get to know them. You know where they went to school. This guy probably went to A&M. Mike went to A&M. You go up, you say hello. And, I'm getting into golf. And the guy says, I got a guy. Let's talk after the game, right? It's a very believable story. And I think that's really all that needs to be said about it. I don't think there's really much more into it.
There's
Pro Football
cameras
Talk.
everywhere.
Pro Football Talk will make more out of it because that's what he does. Mike Florio, that's what he does. But there's nothing. There's nothing more to that. There really isn't. A game last week, Thursday, we got to see Kyler Murray, a different Kyler Murray maybe. I don't know. Maybe this is the new Kyler Murray, but he snaps on Cliff Kingsbury. My thoughts on the whole thing was I feel like he felt like maybe the plays were getting in a little slow and he can't kind of convey to the group what's going on, and he snaps, which may have had a right to do. What was your thoughts on that whole thing?
I mean, by the time he had to hit a timeout, they had plenty of time with the line of scrimmage, right? I don't like it from the standpoint of as soon as things start to get very high energy, high level, all of a sudden you can't take it up to that level, right? The quarterback's got to be consistent. That's not who he is. Like you said, we've never seen that in him before. And to go up to your head coach, your offensive coordinator, and tell him to calm the fuck down multiple times on national television when everybody can see it, I just think it looks bad for that organization. It shows a sign of desperation from that standpoint, because if you respect somebody, I'm not going to get in your face and tell you that as I'm walking off the sidelines.
Competitive juices, though? You don't think?
Okay, there's a balance within all of it.
Because there's been some times where
juices,
I'm like, hold on, motherfucker. Like, we're in the middle of this. Like,
for sure.
You ain't going to talk to me like that. I'm not going to talk to you like that. But hold on. We're like, I get competitive flow, right?
Yeah, there's all of those things, right? But this is a very important play call. This is a very important time in the game. So you have to be level-headed, and you've got to be able to do those things. I just don't think it looks good for the organization. I don't think it looks good for the relationship that a lot of people are questioning right now between Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury.
I think they're going to continue to question this week after they play the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. Skull.
I mean, that's a pretty cool
It's coming.
chant, yeah.
It's coming.
The bearded guy's not there anymore. The Viking, though, I think he got axed on the motorcycle.
Did he?
I don't know. What's the word on the street?
He was a stud, though.
Yeah.
I liked him.
He
I
supposedly
really
went
liked him.
into contract negotiations, asked for too much, and they said, you know what? You're replaceable.
Yeah.
We all are.
This time of the season, this is where we see all the injuries. Halfway point. You're going to see a ton of injuries. We've seen a lot. The Jets got hammered this week, which sucks because both those dudes were fucking playing at a extremely high level, and they were rolling. A big one up in the Pacific Northwest, DK Metcalf. Maybe not as bad as initially thought. I heard we had Schultze on McAfee's show this week. I heard him say DK Metcalf actually wanted to play, so maybe not as bad. He probably won't. They'll keep him out. But who do we got? Who do we got as a backup for him?
Marquise Goodwin,
Okay.
a good veteran, right? Like the teams that are very good, that want to be in it for the long haul,
Yep.
They have that depth, the second, third level of the depth chart where they're feeling good and saying, you know what, we've got veteran guys that can step in there at a moment's notice, that understand their role. They're not necessarily a starting caliber player, but they add a dimension to this offense, to this defense. They're going to be doing their job at a high level. They're reliable. They can trust what's going on. He goes in there. He has 4 catches for 60-some odd yards, 2 touchdowns, right? Changes it. He has world-class speed. We've
World-class.
seen it. I mean,
Track star.
it still has it, right?
Mm-hmm.
To be able to insert some guy like that, and then it doesn't have to make you one-dimensional in just the run game, because Tyler Lockett's already hampered with his hamstring. Whether or not he can come back, there's all these moving pieces. Kenneth Walker is going to be a superstar in this
Already
league.
is.
Already is.
Yep.
To what he is capable of doing. You can't all of a sudden just say, okay, we no longer have a pass game. We no longer have a deep threat, right? Marquise Goodwin is that deep threat. It's not going to be long, right? It can be short-term, it can be long-term, but he's going to fill that gap. Because DK Metcalf, I mean, everybody just automatically, you hear that name, you think about what he did running down Buda Baker last year, right? World-class speed as well. You can't replace speed on a football field.
No,
There's
it's
no
unteachable.
substitute for it. So you've got to be able to have that. You have to be able to keep that. And you want to be able to keep Geno Smith playing at a high level. Marquise Goodwin will allow you to do that.
Also, just to pivot on that, just to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, also look for the Seahawks to stick with a lot more 13 personnel, as we saw towards the end of the game after he went out. 3 tight ends, 1 back, and hammer the run game, right? Kyle Juszczyk, another big-time football player in that same division,
Can
right?
you replace him, though?
Can't replace him. He's unreplaceable. They will go with all their
Former teammate.
But I have so much respect for what that guy does. He is the focal point of that offense. He makes that offense go. All of his versatility. there's so much that he brings to that team. You cannot replace that. But you just hope the run game with McCaffrey added, with Kittle, the other tight ends are able to kind of still do what they do, that deuce off, and kind of still get the same thing out of them. Because I think all of those positions are interchangeable. Would you agree with that?
I think they're interchangeable, but who's doing that matters so much, right?
Agree.
What you present to a defense based off of the personnel group you have out there, when you have a H-back, if you will, a fullback / tight end that can do so many things, can run the football, can catch the ball out of the backfield, versus some of these tight ends like a Tyler Croft or a Ross Dwelly, like that's been out there. Obviously, Kittle's going to be out there. You have these tight ends, but it's a different body type. It's a different thing that you're presenting to the defense because now, you're not as balanced with what's going on. You're not as balanced with your plan of attack because you don't have to worry about them being ball carriers. I think it's a big blow. Hopefully it's not too long. It's a broken finger. He had to get
some surgery, right?
Yeah, he got his surgery repaired. How long he's out? But again, this is a team that has got to stay in the thick of it. They were in a great position. They made a great move.
2 big losses in a row.
And then they got stopped.
Yeah.
What can they do this week against a team that they've had a lot of success against in the Los Angeles Rams?
Jimmy G, 7-0 versus them. 7-0 in the regular season versus the LA Rams. We'll see if he can make it 8-0.
0-1 when it counted, though.
That's exactly
The
right.
playoff.
That's exactly right. Another player that we literally were probably super excited to see how he would pan out when he signs a $70 million contract.
Monster.
Has a monster year last year with New England. Has been great in New England. He comes to the Chargers, gets benched. He's a disappointment.
Yeah.
And here we are, and we're sitting here talking about, okay, let's talk about who's going to be his backup. They know who his backup is. They've already fucking benched him.
Yeah.
This is not a huge loss for them, in my opinion. And I think, they're probably sitting there like, oh, maybe we're better off. We don't have to fucking focus on playing this guy who we had to play, paying him $70 million.
Yeah, I mean, J.C. Jackson has had such an up and down, tumultuous start to that career in L.A., right? You look at, they go out and spend a bunch of money. Corners are a premium in this league. When you have a great lockdown corner that has the stats, that has the accolades, and you start to wonder, is that as much Bill Belichick or is that J.C. Jackson when he brings to the table? The thing that's scary about this is you're talking about a ruptured patella tendon. This isn't like a sprained ankle or something that...
It's a big injury.
It's a really big injury. And with a guy that has to be able to cut, he's got to be able to run, he's got to be able to stick with guys, he's got to be all of these things. It's an ugly, ugly injury.
Will he be the same?
That's the biggest question, right? They have Asante Samuel Jr. They drafted him high. They're trying to be able to do all these things. But when you feel like you're on the cusp as a team and you're trying to make big splashes in free agency, you go out and you do this. And again, he wasn't even active in the beginning of the year because of his ankle injury. It's a big problem for them right now because that's a void where that money could have been dispersed somewhere else. And now when he hasn't really panned out, to your point anyways, do you feel more confident getting some guys in there that are going to add depth to it? It just sucks to lose a guy like that, though.
And in their position, they're probably in salary cap hell because they got fucking 5 All-Pros where they're paying an exorbitant amount of money. Yeah, and they're going to have to pay the quarterback at some point, so they probably can't go out and get a replacement. They got to build from within, and they got to feel pretty good, I think, though. I mean, I think this is a situation where, this is a guy that they weren't super high on since he's come back, and, it sucks to lose him. We probably could have got him better, but, we were willing to play without him at this point anyways.
Well, sometimes when you don't have a backup plan too, right? If you don't have a backup plan in place, you go and you make your new plan, right? You have to deviate from that and you go here, much like they did in New York. We talked about it earlier in the show. Breece Hall goes out, unfortunately tears his ACL. There was so much hype going into the season for him, and he lived up to that hype. He was doing everything that was asked of him.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they see a need. They see a massive need because they want to stay balanced. This Jets offense hasn't been relevant in a long, long football line. Even when they were going to the championship games, Rex Ryan based everything on that defense. The defense is playing extremely well. We've talked about that. We understand that. But this offense is actually putting up points. They're able to stay balanced in the run game, pass game. You're looking at all these things. They make a move for James Robinson, who was all of a sudden last week was non-existent on a Jaguar football team. Usually when that happens, that means that guy's going on the trading block.
Yeah, and this is a really good football player.
Oh.
This is a guy that's got, I think, 24, 25 touchdowns in his career. A team gets James Robinson, and they're instantly back to where they were. I don't think you can replace a Breece Hall. I don't. But if there's anybody that can come in and still give you the 1-2 punch between him and Michael Carter, This is a guy that you got to feel really good about getting. They made a move to let the world know, hey, we're still in this thing. We believe in this team. Now, where they do need to get better is the quarterback position. They need more production out of Zach Wilson. I know he's doing some good things. I know he's improved, but we need more than 125 yards from him. Defense is playing well. Run game's there. He's got to step up. Sucks to lose Breece Hall, but I think they're in a good position.
You don't get to play the Denver Broncos every week.
Exactly.
All right, on to Between the Lines.
Great segment.
You know, we're starting to see people's real character come through, right? You've had enough of a season to understand the trajectory of these teams, what they're feeling, how each individual is playing for that team, right? And I talked about it. Elijah Moore's frustrated. He wants out. He demands a trade. He's on his rookie deal. They got him for peanuts right now. They are not letting him out. They will keep him disgruntled. He's not going to be able to do that and hopefully get him inserted. And maybe that helps alleviate some of the stuff that's going on with Zach Wilson to get over 120 yards passing, right? Because you want to be able to disperse the ball. They've got enough playmakers on the outside. You look at what they added in the draft. They've added in free agency. They've done a tremendous job. I do think Zach Wilson will get more comfortable. But how much of a pure passer is he? I don't think he is anyway. So that's why you're not seeing guys get consistent targets. That's probably why Elijah Moore is frustrated with what's going on.
So what did Elijah say? There's not much to read between. He wants out. He wants out in the worst way. But here's
will he get out?
That's the biggest thing. They've already said no. They've said no. I think the Packers have probably inquired about it. I think a lot of teams have inquired about it. They say
Packers probably inquired about
everybody. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Aaron wants a new guy. He wants a new target. He wants a new weapon. But Elijah Moore wants out. Here's kind of my thoughts on this whole thing. This is the first time the Jets have had a winning season since he's been there, right? And so maybe we just be a good teammate for a little bit. Maybe the targets will come. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how that works, but I do know that I felt like I've been in some situations where I always felt like I was getting screwed, but I just kind of kept my mouth shut, went back to work, and usually good things came from it.
I don't know if I told you my theory on this. I can usually tell a lot about a guy where he goes to college.
Okay, where'd he go?
Ole Miss.
Okay.
I don't know how many Ole Miss guys you've played with before. I haven't played with a lot of Ole Miss guys that are all bought in for the team. Not necessarily all in for the team guys.
Was Eli Manning? Was he a all in for the team guy? I think so. But we didn't play with him.
Quarterbacks are different.
Quarterbacks
are
different.
They're held to a different standard. They're held to a different standard.
Okay.
Eli Manning was all in with 2 Super Bowl rings. That's how he was all in.
There you go. Yeah, no, I mean, it's an interesting thought. I mean, I do agree. I do think there are certain schools that, like, you come from there, it's like, you might want to stay away from them. Like Alabama, you know what you're getting. You're getting a great team guy. You're getting a great guy in the locker room. Probably a guy that works his ass off.
What do you get from a Penn State guy?
I don't know. I know what you used to get from a Penn State guy. Anymore, I think it's still really well received. I think you get good quality guys. I think James Franklin's doing a nice job up there. But you're right. Schools in general.
Very, very politically correct.
Very, very. Florida State might not be getting a great locker room guy.
Yeah.
Not a great team, but it is what it is.
We don't need to divulge too much else about it. But yes, usually by where they went to school, you can tell the demeanor or how they were raised from 18 to 21, 22 years old.
Through college, yeah.
So, anyways, moving on.
Yeah.
The big move last week was Christian McCaffrey. The team that has to play against Christian McCaffrey this week after a full week of game planning, who knows that team very well. And as you said, Jimmy G is 7-0 against the Los Angeles Rams. Their head coach, Sean McVay, had this to say.
Sean, what were your thoughts about the 49ers trading for Christian McCaffrey?
No, you thought, they get another great player, but I think he's a phenomenal player. Obviously, we saw him recently. I've always had respect for his game and the versatility. So, I think that's your first inclination. And then you have, what a great job Kyle and his staff do of maximizing and utilizing versatile offensive weapons.
Oh, shit. Yeah, they did get another good player. They got another great player. Yes, you are correct in that. How it fits into it, I still don't think it changes what they do philosophically of who they want to be. If they're down, it's not going to change it. It allows them to be more conservative, get a back out of the backfield. You can get more crafty with how you want to use Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey at the same time.
I also think that there's a couple plays that are super well blocked that Jeff Wilson gets tackled for 13. I think Christian takes some of these to the house.
There you go.
I think
All
you
right.
get a home run hitter. I think this is a big move. I really do. You know how my affinity for this offense. You know that.
I think everybody knows
I
that.
think everybody knows that at this point. And this makes it better. I didn't think it could be better, like I said a billion times. You can put my daughter in that backfield. She's going to run for 110. My daughter ain't breaking the home runs and getting them 180 like Christian can do. So I think he's a special player.
And catching the ball, right? They
And
split
you're
him
gonna get
out.
that.
They get him on the perimeter. You can
You'll get
motion
those
him
quick
out. Yeah.
screens. Yeah, you're going to get some things and probably take some of the beating off of Debo too, right? Like
Yeah.
now Debo doesn't have to be the full focal point. Trevor Lawrence, he's having a good year. He's having a better year. He's also
He
still
thought he had it figured out, though. 2 games in.
He did. He was feeling really good about it, and now he's taking a step back. I don't want to say a huge step back because they're still in it, minus the Philly game. But everybody's getting shellacked by Philly, right? They are in a good position against a 6-1 Giants team and lose by 3 feet. They lose by 3 feet. So they lost by at the end of the day. But here's what Trevor had to say.
We're just not making enough of those plays right now. I mean, we're that close, and that's what's frustrating for us too as players. You know, you put so much into it, and coaches too. Obviously, you put so much into it, and to come up that short, especially this many times early in the season, is frustrating, and everybody feels that.
He's talking obviously about how many times they've lost, and exactly what I just said, right? Like they've come up short, but they're in it. They are there. It's just about getting over the hump and learning to win. And I think that is the biggest thing when it comes to culture. You can change culture. You can change players, get better as a team. But until you learn how to win, that's the difference.
Yeah, I agree, right? A loss is a loss, a win is a win. You have to learn to finish with a victory. That's all that
matters.
all that this comes down to in this league, right? And certain guys are going to do that, and certain guys won't do that. And so much of it starts and stops with the quarterback position. So you can't just sit there and say, like, finger popping and say, oh man, we could have won this one, we could have won that one. No, you could have, but you didn't. So that's all that matters. At the end of the day, your record says what you are. And the teams that consistently find ways to lose as opposed to push through and find a way to win. Right now, the Giants are finding ways to win football games. They have a belief that no matter what, they are in every single football game until there are zeros on the clock. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
Right now, you look at that team, and as you said, culture matters a lot. A quarterback has to buy in the culture just as much as the head coach is going to change that culture. You can't sit there and say, woe is me. Nobody cares about that in this league. This is a young guy that's trying to establish himself, who's played well at times. He's also went out and lost them football games. He's got to play better. He's got to be able to finish better because that's what this league comes down to. Every game is going to come down to the last couple minutes. Do you make the play or do you not make the play? And Trevor Lawrence hasn't made enough plays.
Let's talk about another quarterback. Let's talk about another quarterback that has been making some plays. Gets a win. Almost had a big win against our Buccaneers a couple years ago in the playoffs. This guy can play. I mean, he's got some moxie to him. He's got some shit to him, right? Taylor Heineke, Washington Commanders.
Whenever the conversation about you comes up, it's always like, yeah, Taylor Heineke, good. But do you feed off of that, a constant questioning of what you are?
No, I don't. I've said this before. I don't care about the doubters. I don't care what they have to say. I care about the people who believe in me, and I want to prove them right. That means more to me than anyone else that has something negative to say. So,
I love it when I can speak from a personal standpoint right here. When you make that transition where you feel established as a backup, a quality backup in this league, you don't care about the outside noise. You don't care about the outside perception of what's going on because all that matters is the guys in that locker room. When you step into that huddle, they believe you can win. Every time that you step into that huddle, there is a belief that you're going to win a football game. That's all that matters. That is the most important factor of playing this position, is that the 10 other guys and the other guys on that sideline believe, okay, you give us a chance to win. We're not out of this. Because you see the teams right now that have to put their backup quarterback in to go in there and play, and all of a sudden it's just this. The air is taken out of the sideline. They're deflated. They don't feel like they have a chance to win. He infuses life into this team.
Agreed.
And it sucks for Carson Wentz because he's not had success, right? But you insert him, and he steps in this huddle. He makes plays. He keeps you in the football game. He will put his nuts on the table, and he's not afraid because he has moved on. This is not about proving himself to the outside world. He's been paid. He has financial security. He understands what it's going to take to get the other people around him to be who he authentically is by himself and not worried about what the guy is saying about him on Fox, or what the fan is saying about him in the stands, or what the person's writing about him on Twitter. When you get to that standpoint mentally, it is so freeing, and it's hard to do.
Yep.
It is so hard. It took me a long time to get there. But he has gotten there, and he's playing with the confidence that now travels throughout the entire locker room.
I agree. I mean, you get the same feeling with him that you do when Bailey Zappi walked on the field this past week, right? Like, Mac Jones comes out, Zappi goes in, and you could feel electricity. He makes one throw. Boom, this place is alive. Makes another big throw. This place is on fire now, right? And so Heineke gives you that. And you see it every time he plays. He may not win every game he plays, but he scrambles and gets you 12. He lowers his shoulder, takes a hit out of bounds, place goes crazy. O-lineman's picking him up, right? He's got that about him, and you got to love everything about that. As a backup, that's all you want. You exactly what you said. You want to feel good as the O-line and the rest of the skill guys. When that guy steps in, that guy at least gives you a chance.
Yeah.
That's all you want.
You just need a chance.
That's all you want.
Speaking of a chance, your former head coach,
Yeah.
Steve Wilkes,
Yeah.
now an interim, coming in a tough situation. He had this to say.
Well, on that play where Mike Evans drops the ball and the air goes out of the balloon for the Buccaneers, the flip side for the Panthers, Wilkes told me, he said, maybe the football gods are on our side today, and they needed it.
So here's the question. Alan, do you believe in football gods?
I don't believe in football gods per se, but here's what I believe in. I do believe in breaks. I believe in momentum. I believe in a lot of these things. They caught a break early in that game, and that's what he's referring to.
Massive.
Mike Evans is wide open, who doesn't drop balls. He does not drop balls. He certainly doesn't drop wide open 70-yard touchdown bombs. He just does not. And so when that happened, they caught a break. And had that play happened, the entire air is out of that stadium. Maybe you lose your confidence. Maybe that game goes completely
Maybe
different.
they cover the minus 13 like you had.
Exactly. But here we are, and that happened, and then you just watch that team build and build and build. And then with that, you have a Tampa team that can't execute right now. They are not executing. There's missed assignments, there's missed blocks, there's missed plays, there's missed throws, there's missed everything. But you hope that team can figure it out. But right now, they got a Tampa team who's not playing very well, and they decided after that big break early to play their asses off. And that offensive line played well. They ran the ball well. P.J. Walker played well. They got production everywhere they needed to. And Steve Wilkes walks out with his head held high, shaking Todd Bowles' hand like, yeah, I'm here. I did it. I did it.
We're at the point in the season where you can't let bad football teams hang around and give them any hope. You jump on them early. The good football teams that I've been on make a concerted effort to say don't give them any room to breathe. You suffocate them right off the bat. You step on them right off the bat.
Hold them down.
And say, not today, and then they'll tap out. They'll sit there and they'll tap out.
Just give them a reason to tap out, and they will.
Yeah, exactly. We're at that point right now. That is a football team that was ready to tap out, that was willing to tap out, that tapped out the week before right away, right?
Yeah.
And all of these things, you let them hang around, you make them feel good, and eventually you're going to find yourself on the wrong side of the win-loss column.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And so they went into that game as double-digit dogs and walk away with a double-digit win. So let's dive right into the pick six section of this. I'm going to roll this week. We got the Seattle Seahawks versus the New York Giants. These are two of the best running teams in the league, two of the worst running defenses in the league. I think we're going to stick with the running game. I think it's a pretty safe bet, and I think we're going to go with the under on this one. I'm taking the under on this. I don't know if you like it, but I like it. Washington Commanders versus the Indianapolis Colts. We got Sam Ellinger.
I don't like this. I hate that move.
I hate that move too. Sam Ellinger. Welcome. Versus Taylor Heineke in a barn burner in Indianapolis. Somehow they got the Colts fucking favored with Ellinger. I don't know if they just like everybody else better.
You get 3 points at home.
So it's a split. It's a toss-up, we're saying. I'm going to go Washington Commanders +3. I like this pick. I think it's a lock. think it's a lock.
Oh, gosh. Anytime you throw a lock on anything,
The D line on Washington's going to get home. They're going to beat up a offensive
Chase
line
Young's
that
not
was
back
supposed
yet.
to be good, and they are not good. For some reason, Indianapolis Colts offensive line is not good. But Jonathan Allen, Payne, Sweat, they're going to get home. They're going to get to old Sammy Ellinger, McConaughey's boy. All right.
I'm not buying that. I don't like the move. I don't think it's good. You can't make Matt Ryan the scapegoat of everything that's going on around.
Couldn't agree more.
On top of, you knew this move was coming the week before when he wasn't even dressed, and all of a sudden they decided to flip it and say, "Hey, Nick Foles, you're going to be down. You're inactive, just because we want to get Sam closer there."
Yeah.
1 week later, boom. All right,
make
now
that move.
Sam, you're the starter.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I feel like there's so many knee-jerk
Nick,
reactions.
you stay at 2, and hey, Maddie, you're going to be in street clothes, bud.
These knee-jerk reactions, right, of these GMs and these head coaches sitting there saying, well, Bailey Zappi's going out there having success. Taylor Heineke's going out and have success. We've got a young guy here who's charismatic that can go out and do something. Like Lee Corso says, not so fast, my friend.
That's it. Hey, I love this team. This is a team that everybody said, let's write them off. Let's write them off early. Can't write Vrabel off. This guy's got fucking too good of a staff, too good of a leadership capabilities. Like, it's unbelievable what he's been able to do down there. Tennessee -2.5 at Houston. Houston, I like what Houston's doing. Houston's hanging around in some games. They stink. They fucking stink, though. They can't win. They don't have the culture to win. They're
just
can't
like
win.
Jacksonville.
Yeah,
right? That's
exactly.
going to be like the worst game ever because it's like, which team's going to find a way to lose it, not who's going to win it.
Yeah, but Tennessee will find a way to win it. 100%.
Well, this one, yes. But I'm talking about Jacksonville with
versus
Trevor
Houston.
Lawrence and Davis Mills.
Yeah, I agree. Couldn't agree more. But Tennessee, I love what their offensive line's doing. I love Ben Jones and Vrabel have a moment where they hug and cry after the game because Ben Jones lifts Derrick Henry, takes him, gets the first down. I love what's happening down there. They're playing awesome on defense. They are flying around. I like this pick a lot. Tennessee -2.5 at Houston.
Yeah, I like the pick too. Tennessee's one of my favorite teams just because, again, you know for the most part they're going to be in every football game. They're going to keep it close because they can't afford to let any separation go on or else it's hard to come back. Who knows who's playing wide receiver for them? Who knows we all know who's playing running back for them, and that's what matters most.
No doubt. Who you got?
All right. Not a great week for me again. I took the Pats. It was
I think everybody would have taken the Pats.
I mean, you would think, right? They throw a couple
Any given
wrinkles in
Sunday.
there. Or Monday.
Or Monday.
Either one. I'm going back to the tried and true Bengals that I think are playing really well right now. Right? They're playing at a high level. Their defense has not allowed a second half touchdown all year, I believe.
It's absurd.
I mean, it's
an insane
phenomenal,
statistic.
right? And you're seeing 3 wide receivers that almost each went for over 100 yards last week. So that they are playing at a high level. Joe Burrow is done with that hangover of the Super Bowl. They get to go to Cleveland in a very tough divisional rival opponent. But that Cleveland defense is decimated right now. There is a lack of belief in what they're doing right now. There is a lack of leadership in that Cleveland Browns organization. And everybody's pointing fingers. Nick Chubb is a phenomenal talent, but he can't do everything on his own. I love Nick Chubb, but 3.5 points is not enough to be able to cover versus the Bengals.
I like it. Who you got?
All right, next, Rams San Francisco. We're talking about over 42.5. I think these are two offenses that are getting more healthy. They're adding more dimension to what they're trying to accomplish. Usually the under is a pretty safe bet when these two teams line up because they feel each other out. There's this whole feeling out period of we have so many different ways we can go.
Yeah, it's going to be a 7-3
We
first
love
quarter.
our run game. We love all this stuff. I think this is the point in time where both these teams that are very good teams are going to be able to take it to the next level, right? You look at what they're getting back. You look at some of the guys they want to do. These game plans coming off of a bye is going to be very intricate with Sean McVay of how he wants to attack them. He knows what the record's been against Kyle Shanahan. He's got to right the ship in that regard. I think this goes over 42.5.
Okay.
Lastly, talk about kicking a team while they're down. The Detroit Lions are down.
Oh.
They are dreadful. They are not having success.
I'm going to send them to the European division. Whenever Goodell puts them in. I mean, gee.
Dan Campbell has another great quote this week about all this stuff. They're starting to feel the pressure. This Dolphins team right now is getting it figured out. As long as Tua can stay healthy, as long as he can disperse the ball to the weapons they have, they are playing at a high level. 3.5 points at Detroit on that turf. They're going to be flying around. Tyreek Hill is going to go off. I know Jeff Okudah is playing really well. He's playing at that high level first round top 5 pick at corner. He's tackling. He's doing all these things, but nobody's staying pace with the cheetah right now.
No, nobody is. I agree. Hey, get your picks in this week. We got locks. We're due.
Long overdue.
We are long overdue. I mean, we've had some good ones. The teams aren't doing what we want them to do, but they are this week. They're going to do them. So get your picks in, get your bets in, and we got some locks.
Responsibly.
Just get them in. Just get them in. Hey, thank you so much for joining along, listening. Cheers, brother, as always. Thank you to Little Miss BBQ. Unbelievable spread. You're in the Phoenix area, come check it out. This shit is as good as Austin, Texas. All the good barbecue places. Place is unbelievable. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Spotify, Apple, anywhere we can check out a podcast. Appreciate you all for joining along with us. Till next week.
Thanks for tuning in.